In the third millennium, somewhere in the forgotten realm of Aethermoor, at a time when the ancient gods still walked among mortals, I stood as the last guardian of the sacred flame. My name is Theron Drakeheart, and this is the tale of how I faced the Shadow Lord Malachar and saved our world from eternal darkness. The crimson dawn painted the sky like spilled blood as I gazed out from the Tower of Whispers, the highest spire of our ancient citadel. For 700 years, my bloodline had protected the sacred flame that burned at the heart of Aethermoor. The flame was no ordinary fire. It was the very essence of life itself, the last remnant of the first light that the gods had blessed our world with at the dawn of creation. But now, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, and I could feel the malevolent presence of Malachar growing stronger with each passing day. The Shadow Lord had been banished to the Void Realm centuries ago by my ancestor, but the ancient seals were weakening, and his influence was seeping back into our world like poison through cracked stone. I remember the day everything changed. I was training in the courtyard with my mentor, Master Aldrich, when the earth beneath our feet began to tremble. The sacred flame flickered for the first time in 1,000 years, and a bone-chilling howl echoed across the land. Aldrich's weathered face went pale as he gripped my shoulder. "The time has come, young Theron," he whispered urgently. "Malachar stirs in his prison. You must prepare for the trials ahead." That night, as I meditated before the sacred flame, visions flooded my mind. I saw Malachar in his realm of shadows, his former writhing mass of darkness with eyes like burning coals. He had found a way to corrupt the minds of men, turning them into his servants. Already, 3 of the 5 kingdoms had fallen under his influence, their armies marching toward Aethermoor with conquest in their hearts. The weight of my destiny pressed down upon me like a mountain. I was only 25 years old, barely a man by the standards of my people, yet the fate of all existence rested in my hands. The sacred flame pulsed brighter as if responding to my thoughts, and I felt its ancient power flowing through my veins. Master Aldrich appeared beside me, his robes rustling in the ethereal wind that always surrounded the flame. "Tell me what you saw," he commanded, his voice heavy with concern. I recounted my visions, watching as his expression grew grimmer with each word. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment, staring into the dancing flames. "There is something I must show you," he finally said, leading me deeper into the citadel than I had ever been before. We descended through winding staircases carved from living rock, past chambers filled with ancient artifacts and forgotten knowledge, until we reached a massive vault sealed with runes that glowed within a light. Aldrich placed his hand upon the seal, speaking words in the old tongue that made the air itself shimmer. The vault opened with a sound like thunder, revealing a chamber that took my breath away. The walls were covered in murals, depicting the first war between light and shadow, and at the center stood a pedestal holding a sword unlike any I had ever seen. The blade was forged from starlight itself, its edge sharp enough to cut through the fabric of reality. The crossguard was shaped like the wings of a phoenix, and the pommel contained a fragment of the first light, glowing with the same radiance as the sacred flame. "This is Dawnbreaker," Aldrich said reverently, "forged by the god Luminous himself for the first guardian. It is the only weapon capable of truly destroying Malachar, but..." He paused, his eyes filled with sorrow. "To wield it, you must first prove yourself worthy through the 3 trials of light." The first trial came sooner than expected. 3 days later, scouts reported that the corrupted army of King Valdris had breached our outer defenses. I stood atop the citadel walls, watching as thousands of once noble warriors advanced toward us, their eyes now black as coal, their hearts turned to shadow. "Remember," Aldrich said beside me, "they are not your enemies. They are victims of Malachar's corruption. If you can purify them without killing them, you will pass the first trial." The trial of compassion. I drew my ordinary sword, knowing it would be nearly useless against such numbers, but trusting in the sacred flame's power. As the first wave of corrupted soldiers reached the walls, I leaped down among them, landing in their midst with a flash of golden light. The battle was unlike anything I had ever experienced. These were not mere mortal men. The shadow corruption had given them supernatural strength and resilience. Their blades seemed to absorb light, and their touch brought a bone-deep chill that threatened to freeze my very soul. But I had trained for this moment my entire life. I moved like lightning through their ranks, not striking to kill but to purify. Each touch of my blade against their corrupted flesh sent waves of sacred fire through their bodies, burning away the shadow taint. One by one, I watched as their black eyes cleared, confusion replacing malevolent rage. What happened to me?" gasped Sir Marcus a knight I had known since childhood. The corruption was gone from his features, leaving him pale, unshaken, but whole. "You were deceived by Shadow," I replied, helping him to his feet. "But you are free now." By sunset I had purified nearly 1,000 soldiers, though exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me. The sacred flame within me flickered like a candle in a storm, but it did not die. As the last corrupted warrior fell to his knees, cleansed of shadow, I felt something change within me. A warmth spread through my chest, and I knew I had passed the first trial. The second trial came in the form of doubt. As I rested in the citadel that night, Malachar spoke to me through dreams, his voice like silk over steel. "Young guardian," he whispered from the shadows of my mind, "you fight for a dying light. Look around you. See how darkness spreads across the world like a tide. Your sacred flame is but a flickering candle against the eternal night. Join me, and I will make you a lord of shadows, ruler of worlds beyond counting." The visions he showed me were seductive. Vast realms where I could rule with unlimited power, where death and suffering were mere memories. I saw myself seated on a throne of black crystal, commanding legions of shadow warriors, my word law across countless worlds. But then I remembered the faces of those I had purified, the gratitude in their eyes, as they were freed from corruption. I thought of the children playing in the villages below, the farmers tending their fields, the scholars preserving ancient knowledge. All of it would be lost if I succumbed to Malachar's promises. "I reject your gifts, Shadow Lord," I declared, forcing myself to wake from the nightmare. "Light may flicker, but it endures. Darkness may seem eternal, but it is nothing more than the absence of hope." The trial of courage came at dawn. Malachar himself appeared at the gates of our citadel, no longer confined to the void realm but manifested in terrible reality. He stood 12 feet tall, his form shifting between shadow and substance, wreathed in flames that burned cold as winter ice. "Come forth, little guardian." His voice boomed across the courtyard, shaking the very stones of our ancient walls. "Face me in single combat, and let us end this charade. Your light has grown weak with age, while my darkness has only grown stronger." Taking up my ordinary sword, for I had not yet proven worthy of Dawnbreaker, I walked out to meet him. Behind me, I felt the eyes of every soul in the citadel watching, their hopes and fears weighing on my shoulders like a cloak of lead. Malachar struck first, his shadow blade whistling through the air with the force of a hurricane. I barely managed to parry, the impact sending shockwaves up my arms. His strength was beyond anything mortal, but I had something he did not, the unwavering flame of hope burning in my heart. Shadow clashed against light in displays that lit up the sky like twisted aurora. Malachar's power was vast and terrible, but I noticed something as we fought. For all his strength, he was growing desperate. Each time my blade touched him, sending sacred fire through his form, he recoiled with what I realized was fear. "You cannot destroy me," he roared, unleashing a wave of shadow that should have consumed me utterly. But I stood firm, letting the sacred flame within me blaze brighter than ever before. The shadows parted around me like water around a stone. "You're right," I said, understanding flooding through me. "I cannot destroy you, but I don't need to. You are already destroying yourself." That was when I saw the truth. Malachar was not truly evil. He was pain, given form, despair, made manifest. Long ago, he had been a guardian like me, but he had faced trials that broke his spirit. In his anguish, he had embraced the very darkness he was meant to fight, becoming the thing he most feared. "You were like me once," I called out, lowering my sword. "You protected the light, served the greater good. What happened to you?" For a moment, the Shadow Lord's terrible form wavered, and I saw beneath the mask of darkness to the broken soul within. I failed them," he whispered, his voice suddenly filled with ancient grief. "My people, my world, they died because I was not strong enough. I swore I would never be weak again." "Strength is not about power," I replied, stepping closer despite every instinct screaming at me to flee. "True strength is about accepting help, about admitting when we need others. You don't have to carry this burden alone." Something miraculous happened then. The sacred flame within me reached out to the flickering spark of light I sensed still buried deep within Malachar's shadow-wrapped heart. For just a moment, that spark blazed brightly, and I saw him as he truly was. Not a monster, but a guardian who had lost his way. The transformation was gradual, but undeniable. The shadows began to peel away from his form like old paint, revealing a figure much like myself, tall, noble, but bearing the weight of unimaginable sorrow. His eyes, no longer burning coals but deep wells of regret, met mine. "I remember now," he said softly. "I remember what I was meant to protect." With his redemption, I felt the final trial complete itself within me. The sacred flame blazed brighter than ever, and I knew I was finally worthy. Aldrich appeared at my side, tears streaming down his weathered face as he witnessed this impossible turn of events. "Come," he said, leading us both back to the vault. "It is time." When I placed my hand on Dawnbreaker's hilt, the sword sang with harmonious light, but more than that, I understood that I was not meant to wield it alone. Turning to the redeemed guardian who had once been my greatest enemy, I offered him the blade's twin, forged from the same starlight but tempered with the wisdom that comes from overcoming darkness. Together, we became the twin guardians of Aethermoor, protectors of both light and shadow in their proper balance. Where once there had been a single flame burning against the dark, now there were two lights working in harmony, one to illuminate the path forward, the other to ensure that the lessons of darkness were never forgotten. The corrupted armies that had threatened our realm were healed, their kings freed from the shadow's influence. The 5 kingdoms were restored, and an age of unprecedented peace began. But more than that, we had learned that even the darkest evil could be redeemed if approached with understanding rather than hatred. I often stood atop the Tower of Whispers in the years that followed, watching the sun rise over a world made whole again. Beside me, my brother Guardian would stand in comfortable silence, both of us understanding that our greatest victory had not been in battle, but in choosing compassion over conquest. The sacred flames still burned at the heart of our citadel, but now it burned differently, not as a lone light against the darkness, but as part of a greater illumination, acknowledged both the necessity of shadow and the power of light. For in the end, I had learned that true guardianship was not about destroying what we feared, but about understanding it, healing it, and helping it find its proper place in the grand tapestry of existence. And so ends the tale of the last guardian of Aether. It would be more accurate to call it the tale of the first of the twin guardians, for it marked not an ending but a new beginning. The beginning of an age where light and shadow danced together in eternal harmony, protected by those who understood that even the greatest darkness could be transformed into something beautiful if met with enough love, courage, and hope. The sacred flame burns still, and always will, as long as there are hearts brave enough to carry its light into the world's darkest corners. Not to destroy what they find there, but to heal it, redeem it, and help it remember what it was always meant to be. This is my story, the story of Theron Drakeheart, guardian of light and shadow, protector of the sacred flame, and brother to one who was once lost but is now found. May it serve as a reminder that no soul is beyond redemption, no darkness too deep to be touched by light, and no guardian must stand alone against the trials that await them. For, in the end, we are all guardians of something precious, our families, our communities, our hopes and dreams. And like the sacred flame itself, these things burn brightest when we tend them together, supporting one another through the darkest nights until the dawn comes again. The flame endures, the light persists, and the guardians watch eternal, not in solitude, but in the fellowship of all who choose hope over despair, love over hatred, and redemption over revenge. This is the way of the light. This is the path of the guardian. This is the legend that'll echo through all the ages yet to come.